Hi, my name is Seth Kearsley. I'm an artist working in animation for the last 30 years and excited to talk to you today about the very first job, which was for the Maxx. 30 years ago, 1994, I was just getting out of school. I had already been a huge fan of Sam's. I drew from his Wolverine comics. I still have like a lot of those comics. The way he drew muscles, the camera angles that he chose, the way he like would show like all of the hair and all of the little tears and like all of that stuff, and these like extra little details that he would add. When I started working on the show, I got Sam to sign some of them, and he was like, wow, this is a really dog-eared version of the comic. Do you sure you want me to sign it? And I'm like, yeah. I was at Cal Arts, and these flyers went up all over the school. This was used as the poster that was put up at Cal Arts. There was a black and white version of this, and I think they had the information for where to call, like somewhere in here. But you see that on the wall, and it's gonna get your attention. I had drawn from Sam's comics so much that when I saw that there was this animated show that was going to be done on MTV from another one of his comics, like I just couldn't believe that like I was coming into animation when that was happening. So to get to work on something done by Sam for MTV at that time, it was pretty crazy. I was really excited about it. It was my first job, so very tense. I went with my friends. We all went down to Rough Draft Studios, which at the time was in like two small offices in a small office building. Like since they've gotten much bigger. So we went down and met with Greg Vanzo, who is the owner and the director of the Maxx. And we all showed our portfolios at the same time. And I remember Greg flipping through all of our portfolios, just like, And then he finished looking at all our portfolios, and he was like, all right, so it pays $800 a week. You could start on Monday, so let me know. And we all were trying to play it cool. And we're like, oh yeah, okay, so we'll give you a call. And he's like, all right, awesome. In the meantime, here's the radio play for the first episode. So maybe have a listen to that, and maybe it'll help you make your decision. And we didn't need help making our decision. We were all pretty stoked. We just got a job. We were all walking away from the office. We were all silently fist pumping and trying to be cool, carrying our portfolios back to the car. But we're all just yes, we got a job. For me, I was excited to have a job, but I was more excited that it was for this Sam Keith MTV show. What? We put the cassettes, it was a cassette with a radio play, into the stereo in the car, and the very first line, when Max says,
"It's wet, dark and wet. It's the kind of weather that penetrates, makes your skin feel itchy and oily. Dirty kind of, but real too."
We were all fanboying over how cool the voice sounded, and just we were all oh my god, I can't believe we get to do this. And we were all just baby animators, and this was our first job, and we had no idea what we were doing. The job was character layout. We didn't know what that meant. We were all animators, so we were all doing way too many poses. I remember this scene. It didn't quite come back like this. This is an example of me putting way too much detail into character layout. At the time, it was really hard to find artists that would be willing to go to this studio that was just starting up to work on this show that no one ever heard about before, for a comic book that had only been out for, I think they had 9 issues out. This is a copy at the beginning of the episode 2 storyboard. So you can see from the storyboard to the comic, we were just taking the comic and just transferring it into storyboard form. But taking all of the inspiration from the book itself, because we were all such fans of the book. It was a very intense scene that I couldn't believe that we were getting to do, but this was like, very early adult animation. So, the fact that, Mr. Gone was a serial rapist and murderer, was definitely not something you were going to see in animation other than this. When my scenes came back from Korea, I would flip through the scenes to see what did they change. So I was learning from my mistakes from the Korean directors who were correcting me. So these are copies of some of the layouts from the show. This is what the scene folder would have looked like. This was for a scene where the giant comes over the back of the chair to attack Maxx. In reverse order here. Another scene. These were the character layout versions that we would do for the show. This is again from the episode where Maxx was really small. I learned more in the first, 3 weeks on the Maxx than I did my entire time at CalArts. CalArts gave me the foundation to be able to have a job like the Maxx. But I didn't know about the nuts and bolts of how animation is actually produced. I remember doing the layout for this scene. This was the first time that I feel like I actually did character layout properly. I had already been looking at a lot of the stuff that had come back from overseas and seeing a lot of the mistakes and realized okay, so we're supposed to do this. This scene, I did the character layout for this scene for the show, and it was I think maybe it was the first time when the scene came back without any revisions. So I was like, yes, I'm learning.
There are many interesting species of predator and prey sheltered within the broad, grassy spaces and massed granite tarns of the outback. One of these is the outback slug. It can leap nearly a quarter mile straight into the air, but it has never mastered the ability to land. It has no predators. It is just stupid.
So the Maxx, ruined me for all other shows that I was to work on, because it was so cool and it was so groundbreaking and there were so many things that we were getting to do that you didn't get to do in later shows, and we didn't know how lucky we were at how much creative freedom we had until way after the fact. And isn't that kind of the way it goes? You don't realize how good you've got it until it's gone. On the Maxx, as an individual artist on the show, there were so few of us that we were doing so much of the show, but it just felt like you were making so much more of an impact. And I really wanted to be a director. I was really inspired by what I was seeing Greg do, and that you could do something like this. You could never do something like this at Disney. It would never happen that you would do something like this at Disney. So even to this day, I still draw the Maxx all the time. If you follow any of my social, you'll see at least one Maxx drawing a year. I always kind of touch back to Maxx. The Maxx has influenced my drawing style so much that I just can't pull it out of the drawings that I do. This actually wasn't done for the show. This was done on a plane, waiting on a tarmac in Paris, waiting to come back. We were snowed in, and I ended up sitting on the plane just drawing Maxx for hours. So it's always kind of kept me company, and always kind of a go-to for drawing. And in the end, reality TV killed all the cool animation stuff that was happening on MTV, and including the Maxx. We left that kind of wow, that was really cool. And when you said you worked on the Maxx, they're like, oh my god, you worked on the Maxx? Because there were so few people. When I ended up doing Mummies Alive, it was a little bit because of the Maxx, that they were like, yeah, we want that kind of vibe with Mummies Alive. And I did it in a couple of scenes, and then they were like, yeah, can you do less of that? So Like, I think they liked the coolness of it, but didn't like specifically like the panels and all of the things that we were doing that, you know, were really staying true to the comic. Sam was very involved. You know, he doesn't live in LA, so, you know, he would come down to the studio, though, all the time. He was there for all the records. He was very much a part of the whole show. We would send him some of our layout drawings, and you'd get the notes back from Sam on how he would draw it. So there was a lot of like trying to draw how Sam draws. But at the same time, like, we didn't have model sheets on the show. You know, the comic book was the model sheet. All of the desks that we were working at, Greg built. So it was really like, it was very inspiring, the like from the ground up, how Greg put together that studio and how he was handling that show. So it was a huge honor and thrill to work on the show. Totally ruined me for everything after. You know, I just assumed that I was coming into animation at a time when like you were just gonna get to do cool stuff like that all the time. So yeah, just wanted to like share whatever came to my head for the Maxx. If you guys have any other questions, ask them in the comments, and I read all of the comments and I'll answer anything that I missed.